Covering the Costs with me, Annalisa Burgos, and we are breaking down the costs of living here in the islands, all kinds of burden that we have to deal with. Today, we're actually going to talk about how to lighten the biggest burden, that is housing. And my guest today, Kimo Carvalho, has a very interesting approach to addressing affordable housing here. It's apparently working. He is the executive director of HomeAid Hawaii, a nonprofit developer for those experiencing or at risk of homelessness. And let's start first, Kimo. We've been talking off air a little bit about what affordability really means. Like, when we say affordable housing, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so, affordable housing has really kind of been an industry term. And for those who kind of fall within certain area median income groups, so based on your annual earning salary and based on your household size, you qualify for a different type of development. So for those who are really your lowest income category, there has never been a developer that's been able to actually afford to build housing for our lowest area median income group, which is those who are primarily experiencing homelessness or anyone who's under 30% area median income. So yeah, it's been an industry term, but for the public, they expect that term to translate into what they can actually afford. Mm-hmm. And here in Hawaii, as we all know, there are so many individuals who are they're spending more than half their paychecks on housing, which is really not the standard.
Yeah, let's talk about some of these statistics, because we're talking about the cost of housing here. More than half of Hawaii renters spend more than 30% of their income on housing. A third of homeowners considered cost burden. And the one that I thought most interesting, more than a quarter of Hawaii households spend more than half of their total income on housing. Yep. I mean, to the average person, you would think, why are we living like this? Why do we let this happen? Yeah. And what are we doing to fix it?
Well, oftentimes the policy has been to leverage the affordable housing program. So like the Rental Housing Revolving Fund, we would subsidize our commercial developments, and then we would actually look at folks who need housing assistance, and we subsidize housing vouchers in those units. For the homeless population, we're also then taking away workforce housing from the market, and we're commingling these two populations, which that development wasn't quite meant for. So it really has been, in my opinion, a Band-Aid and an expensive one. So what we're trying to do is really look at how do we reduce the costs of building and construction and actually pencil the project so that we can pass on those rents to those who actually need that deep affordability. So here in the state of Hawaii, it's about 40,000 individuals are earning less than $30,000 annual salary. And so that really means they only can pay somewhere between $150 to $700 at max on rent just to stay under that 30% area median income category. Now, for developers, that's really hard to pencil. The reason why we've not built for that is because you're not going to, as a developer, be in the red and just lose money on it. You have to make some money to pay your staff. Mm-hmm. And so for HomeAid Hawaii, what we found was this nonprofit developer model actually can bring in the resources that pencils the projects. So for us, we bring in philanthropy, so donors who want to donate to the projects. We bring in the builder industry. They discount their labor, materials, supplies. Sometimes, like for example, if a supplier has ordered flooring, but the color had a manufacturer defect, they have to do something with that. So we take that in. That becomes cost savings. And then we also use the government deregulatory tools like the emergency proclamation that actually helps us to redesign processes and just do what I call common sense development, just to be able to get more efficient on the site. So it just brings down the cost of construction. And the beneficiary at the end of the day are those who actually need deep affordability.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to go back to the statistic you mentioned. Was it more than 40% make $30,000 a year?
At least 40,000 people here in the state of Hawaii are earning less than $30,000 a year.
Okay, 40,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that because I thought I heard 40%. And now that's a little bit more believable to me.
And so when we look at the, the statistic out there has also been, we need about 45,000 units or homes built. And when you kind of break that down for those who need deep affordability, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 17,200 homes needed for this 30% AMI and below category. Mm-hmm. And that was according to the HHFDC, the 2024 Housing Planning Study. The Low Income Housing Institute actually puts that somewhere around 25,000 homes needed for this category. So it's somewhere in that ballpark of our housing gap.
And how much do we have now?
Well,
of what's needed?
We, we're really proud to be able to partner with Governor Green, and we've, over the last 3 years, there's 25 Kauhales, and it spans about 1,000 beds, served about 2,000 individuals to date, which is saving taxpayers somewhere around $153 million annual, just based on the savings of the cost of doing nothing.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So going back, just to backtrack a little bit, you obviously are the Kauhales developer.
Yes.
Right? So when we talk about Kauhales, it's, again, Governor Green's initiative to build these tiny homes. We've talked a lot about it and covered it extensively because it's been a big initiative.
Yeah.
Now, but you have been saying that people have not been welcoming of the Kauhales. There's been a bit of that, not in my backyard, the NIMBYism. Has that changed? Are you seeing the perspective change to that?
Rightfully so. There's always concerns. Whenever we come into a community, we're always starting with land assessment. So we want to find what's the most viable land that is underutilized that can be converted into a Kauhales. Oftentimes we have neighbors that just have concerns. Oftentimes it's safety. They've already experienced some of the repercussions of just unsheltered chronic homelessness in their neighborhoods. Oftentimes what they don't realize is that these neighborhoods and communities can actually be converted and transformed when you build these Kauhales. So it's a process to bring them along. Oftentimes we do community outreach. Of course, there's going to be NIMBYism, but then we invite them into the developments. They see where they're going to live. They understand who the operators are going to be and how they're going to manage the site. And over time, you just sort of see this gradual synergy and community being built. So it's not just the village, it's actually the whole community in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to remind people again, you also were the developer of the Sand Island development, right?
Yeah, arguably the first Kauhales was Kahawiki Village. So about 10 years ago, I don't know if everybody remembers, but Kaka'ako had the largest homeless encampment in the country. And we, on the news saw these vivid images of these young children running on the streets and through the parks. And so the community wanted to do something, and we decided we just need to build deep affordable housing. So we built Kahawiki Village. It's about 180 units at Sand Island. We converted the old paintball field to this village, and we used the emergency proclamation, brought in the private sector, got a little bit of public money, and we were able to effectively cut family homelessness in half. And so that was the first time it became very black and white. You build more homes, you reduce the homeless population. When at the time, Lieutenant Governor Josh Green was in office, we then built Kama'oku, which is in Kapolei, and that was our first tiny home village for homeless veterans, and we cut veteran homelessness by a third. Mm-hmm. So it's the solution, and now I believe the public is starting to pick that up.
And again, made it a priority for this administration. We've seen that.
Yep.
And then Lahaina, obviously the need for housing, affordable housing for a lot of those affected by the Maui wildfires, and the project there. How's that doing?
Great. We're just wrapping up development. It's 450 homes on 57 acres of HHFDC land. And even for that project, the true cost of development for that would have been somewhere around $300 million. The taxpayers only paid about $113 million. Mm-hmm. So that really just shows the value of and the power of the emergency proclamation. We're not compromising on critical life safety, health, environment, culture. These are things we care about as residents. But we redesign these processes so that they become more efficient, and it saves time, it saves cost, and at the end of the day, we're getting people housed. The 450 homes in Lahaina for the wildfire survivors fit a need because there's what we call FEMA ineligible households who did not get FEMA assistance. That project, it's interesting because Dean from HHFDC, who's coming on next, that project right next door, is about maybe the equivalent of, in terms of household size, our project, but it took them about a decade to complete. It took ours about 18 months. And that has a cost to it. And so at the end of the day, our residents are truly able to pay somewhere between $400 to $800 a month. And it's really your starter up home. It's somewhere about 275 square feet. It's smaller spaces, but it allows a family to enter the housing market and start building their economic mobility to the point where they can actually graduate up the housing ladder.
And you have to start somewhere, right? And I
Yep.
think when you look at these types of projects, people are, I feel like, more welcoming of it. Do you see this as an opportunity to offer these to purchase at some point? Because I know right now they're renting.
Yeah.
Can we purchase these if someone out there is watching and says, tiny homes make sense for me. I don't need a huge home. Can we eventually try to purchase these?
So the iterative word is eventually. At this point in time, the answer is no. And the reason for that is because a lot of what we're doing is not permittable. Now, if you were to look at our 100 square foot Kauhales unit, I mean, what are we talking about? So we're talking about jealousy windows versus hurricane proof windows. So jealousy windows cost me about $100 per window. Hurricane proof window cost me about $900 per window. So that's a $800 savings per window. There's 2 windows per unit, so that's $1,600 per unit. Start breaking down all the costs of material supplies, labor that goes into that product. I'm making it more affordable, but the permitting system, it does not honor that. So I think
For safety reasons, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know when a hurricane has ever broken a jealousy window and has injured someone, but fair. I think at the end of the day, we grew up with these types of homes. I mean, Kauhales was really built off of the concept of plantation villages that my great-great-grandparents in Pahala actually grew up on. And so we had these communal spaces that brought communities together. That's where you had intergenerational mixing. That's where the hapa came from. But, I think at the end of the day, we're just really kind of going back to the roots of how we used to live anyway, and it was always safe.
That makes sense. Well, going back to the cost, you compared the 10-year development period versus the 18-month. What do you think needs to happen so we can get to that kind of sweet spot in between?
Sure. Using the emergency proclamation has allowed us the opportunity to creatively redesign processes and look at different methods that is actually resulting in the affordability that we need. So if we can take those lessons learned, standardize what we want to keep, and codify that into a permittable process that can actually be welcome to the public, then we can actually shift toward the private sector and maybe selling these units to say a homeowner who wants to put one in their backyard and house someone, because that's a solution too. This is a kako effort, and it's going to take everyone to find creative solutions. The way we live and the way we build our own communities really should be guided based on not the American dream, but really our local way of how we bring community together. And so why not have those kind of housing options for anybody?
Yeah. And at this point, how are you identifying the land, right? Because you're always in search of land that you can develop and create these kauhale in.
Yep. 3 things that made me successful at this job is, of course, having our builder partners bringing in the discounts, and of course our philanthropic partners that help with the cash donations, but also the emergency proclamation like we decide, but land is the third, and that's the critical path. And so what we do is we're looking for public lands that can be, oftentimes these are remnant parcels that are underutilized and not necessarily wanted. And sometimes even the private sector has these lands and they want to donate it to us. So it's assessing them for critical infrastructure, looking at what the path to development is going to be, and filtering down what's going to be the most cost-effective and efficient land to actually pursue a development on.
And the infrastructure needed, like water, sewer, all that kind of stuff. How do you circumvent a lot of that? Because that takes a long time.
Yeah, and also under the emergency proclamation and under our HomeAid nonprofit developer model, infrastructure looks differently. So infrastructure in the market adds about at minimum 30 to 35% of your cost. So I live in Mililani. We just had Koa Ridge being built. If you were to talk to a civil engineer, they would say, well, it's at capacity by permit, but really you could have actually, reduced the size, reduced the cost, and actually brought the housing prices down so that you can actually have families enter the market at a reasonable mortgage. We have permitting processes, though, that forces developers to build this way. So we're not trying to be greedy. We're just following the law. And so, infrastructure at Kauhales can be above ground. It could be different, not jeopardizing safety, but just common sense and different.
And get people off the streets, right? Because
the
ultimately the
goal.
goal is to give people the dignity to have a roof over their heads and families.
Yep.
And
So we're averaging somewhere around 4 to 6 months just to build a Kauhales. So Alana Olopona in Ivalai, that took us about 6 months. And that probably would have, in a traditional affordable housing development is at least, so we're saving about 41% in terms of time.
And, we were talking also about how this model is really geared towards a specific demographic of people, but there is, we've been talking about the people at risk of homelessness, just they're, one paycheck away or an injury away from losing a job, because a lot of these people do work, right? They're not just sitting around, contrary to a lot of the kind of myths out there of homeless people. Do you think that this model can work if we expand it beyond, the vision of just people being
Experiencing
on the street?
homelessness?
Yeah.
I believe so. We
Like
just
kupuna.
So kupuna are on fixed incomes, and with the rents increasing, that's actually kicking them out of their homes, and it's actually putting them at risk. So that's who we're talking about. We're talking about our kupuna. We're talking about, I was a former foster youth, and when I turned 18 and I got my first job, I was making $30,000, and so I could only afford like about $500 a month.
That's like minimum wage, right? It's like $16 an hour.
Basically, I think we just did a public poll, and what was really exciting about that, the results of that is 9 out of 10 respondents actually support Kauhale, not just because it's a homeless solution, but because they believe that this could be a solution for them too.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, well, now we just have to wait to get it to a level where more people can access it, I guess, right? So
absolutely.
How can people support? What can people do to kind of get this moving and kind of join the Kauhale movement?
Yeah, well, support us, homeaidhawaii.org. We have quite a lot of projects, and it does require the whole community to give in any way, shape, or form. It's not just cash donations, it's not just the builder industry, but it's also volunteers that come in and they add value to making it feel like a home. So we do the building and the structures, but then when you have the landscaping and all the furniture, fixtures, equipment, all the touches that really brings the community together, that's really where the community adds quite a lot of value and savings.
Yeah, and the bottom line, like you said to me earlier, is, meeting people at where they're at, right? We can't increase their wages or their income to be able to afford housing in Hawaii, but meeting them at the type of housing they can afford.
Yeah.
Right?
Civil Beat just came out with an article that said, Hawaii is, it's another, pain point for us is even though the market's increasing and inflation, our wages are actually not catching up, but we can't just wage our way out of this problem. Adding more subsidy, adding more wages. I mean, we're not a friendly business state. So like my partner, has a landscaping business, and, we're trying to force minimum wage. At the end of the day, he actually has to sacrifice his own income to meet those laws. And there's really a gap there to, so he has to go get more clients and, add, which also he has more taxes as a small business. So it's not a business friendly state. So it's really hard to kind of meet these laws and increase wages and expect that that's going to be the solution. So bringing down the costs and really looking at efficiencies is a solution.
And I love it. I think this is very innovative, and we're kind of changing the narrative on what affordable housing means for folks. It doesn't always have to be about lower interest rates or lower down payments, although that is a solution for many people. And our next guest, Dean Minakami of the Hawaii Financing and Housing Development Corporation, is going to be on the show next. We're going to take a quick break, but this is, again, Kimo Carvalho of HomeAid Hawaii. More information on their website as well as ours. Thank you so much for being with us and telling us about it.
Thanks for having me.
And look forward to more projects coming out of your company. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Dean.
Coming up today at 1:30, it's the Drew Point. We're going to be sitting down together to break down the entirety of the Hawaii weather pattern, and you can catch it on the H&N streaming app available on Roku, Apple TV, or Amazon Fire.
from the moment you wake up.
Hawaii News Now brings you the stories that impact your day.
With more on the breaking news, we go live to Casey Lund.
Ready with the push alert? I'm going live. We have an update to the breaking news we brought you this morning on Sunrise.
Okay, guys, as soon as this wraps, toss him a hat.
And we've been covering this story all day.
Now we go live to Mahia for a new development.
Stand by for breaking news. They just captured the suspect.
That's confirmed?
Yes, sources just confirmed it.
The news you need the moment it breaks.
Here on Hawaii News Now.
And thanks for joining us again here on Covering the Cost with me, Annalisa Burgos. And now we are joined by Dean Minakami. He is with the, again, Hawaii
Housing Finance and Development Corporation.
There you go. Forgive me. That's a mouthful.
Yes, it
but
is.
essentially, it is the State Department that manages a lot of these housing programs that we are going to talk about today. And so, Dean, give us a sense for your definition of affordable housing. We just spoke to Kimo Carvalho of HomeAid, who does Kauhales and the very truly affordable housing. But we're talking about what everyone else maybe thinks about.
Yes, that's a good question. And affordable housing is basically housing that I guess our local household can afford within their income range. And the federal metric is that basically you should be putting about 1/3 of your income towards housing expenses. So that's the target, is that, you know, there should be housing for all households where they're just putting aside 30% of their income for housing. And of course, that's not the case here in Hawaii. No.
Yes. And what, in your opinion, has been the biggest deterrent or the challenge of getting that done here?
It's our high cost of construction. We just can't build homes at a level where, you know, say a median income household can just pay 30% of their household income for rent or to purchase a home. The cost to develop a home here is, for a condo, it exceeds $600,000 per unit. So because of our high cost of construction, which is driven by our high land costs, and because materials must be imported here, it's just very difficult for us to build homes at an affordable level.
And what has the state been doing to kind of address this? You know, this seems to be like the perennial problem of housing costs here in Hawaii. Over the last few years, what have we been doing?
There are many different programs that we have that are targeted towards different household incomes. So, for example, there is what's called the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. That's the federal government's primary program for building affordable housing. And it leverages federal tax credits, which are used as equity by developers to subsidize the cost. And at the state level, the legislature has been very generous in providing what's called the Rental Housing Revolving Fund to also provide long-term loans to support these projects. And these are rental projects that are affordable to, you know, Kimo talked about AMI levels. These are affordable to households at 60% AMI and below. So this is for families earning, say, for a single person under roughly $60,000 a year.
Yeah, because he was saying $30,000.
Yeah, that's his target.
That's target.
So
okay.
for these affordable rentals, it's above the Kauhales that Kimo built, so above 30%, $30,000 a year, up to about $60,000 a year, and higher depending on their household size.
Okay, and so that's programs for them. And I know you also have the Hale Kama'aina.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
We recently launched the Hale Kama'aina mortgage and down payment program. When interest rates just rose dramatically in the past few years, we were very concerned that there were local buyers that are being priced out of the market. So we launched a mortgage program which provides below market rate financing for, you know, first-time buyers. And basically it offers right now, the rate is at 5.4% for government type of loans such as VA loans or Department of Ag loans, or 5.7% for conventional loans. And there's also a optional down payment assistance program where home buyers can get up to 4% of the loan amount as a soft second loan. And as a soft second loan, they pay nothing on it. They just pay back the loan when they sell the unit. And it's very good that down payment loan is also very favorable. It's at 1% simple interest per year, and after 10 years, if they remain in compliance with the program, the interest can be forgiven.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this is a way for us to, help local households stay in Hawaii by offering a mortgage product that provides some relief for them. And a good thing I want to mention too is that our fees for this program are very reasonable. You can probably find other lenders that offer comparable rates, but those programs might require 20% down. They might require home buyers to have a very high credit score. For our program, as long as we have a FICO score of 660, which is pretty modest,
Yeah.
and FICO score
And
6.
the income. What about income?
Oh,
Because that's what the complaint is. Usually people can't qualify.
Right. For the income of this program, again, it's for workforce housing. So the income range is actually quite reasonable. It goes up to, on Oahu, it depends on which county you're on, but on Oahu, can be over $200,000 depending on the area where you're purchasing. And the income or the maximum purchase price can be over $1 million depending on where you're purchasing a unit. So again, this is targeted towards real people buying homes, and it's not very restrictive.
Actually, and that's the biggest complaint that we hear from regular folks, working folks, is the fact that, the 1.1 median home price is really unattainable if you're trying to get a 20% down payment, 6 to 7%. 6, 7. Sorry, shout out to my children there. But yeah, that's the concern for a lot of people. They can't really achieve home buyership, home ownership, especially our young people, right? The ones who want to buy homes.
Yes, and that's what we want to do, is to keep our young people in Hawaii, or even people who want to return to Hawaii, to give them an option so that they can purchase a home here, put down roots, and stay in Hawaii.
Yeah, well, and again, the challenge for a lot of folks is even finding available housing, right? I know rent to own is also another a program that you're working on.
Yes, that is something that we are actively getting into, and we're kickstarting the program. We're purchasing 20 units in a condo in Kaka'ako, and the target market here is folks who are renting right now. They're maybe not ready to purchase a home right now. Maybe they have to get their finances in order, save for a down payment, but they'll be paying rents that are comparable to market rents or even lower. And the great thing is that any payment that we receive that is in excess of our cost to maintain the unit becomes their equity. So, and based on, we've modeled this out, and the tenants will receive substantial equity when they can purchase a unit, which will be in 5 years. The purchase price is being set forth up front. So the folks who rent these units, they'll know in 5 years they'll have the option to purchase the unit at a set price. So it allows them to build up equity while just paying, the same rent that they're probably paying right now.
Yeah, well, and that's the complaint, right, is rents are so high right now that it's the same as paying a mortgage, but the challenge, again, is that down payment, the interest rates, you're locking yourself in. Yep. So at least these are some options for folks. I mean, when they say affordable, the biggest complaint is, okay, in Kaka'ako, we're going to say like a 1-bedroom. What is that, $3,000, $4,000?
Oh, yes, depending on the building and the amenities, yeah.
Yeah,
$4,000,
easily. Like,
yeah.
who can afford that, right? Especially if you're a young person just starting out in your career. And then if we see some of these affordable housing buildings and complexes, that's, they say there's a certain number of units set aside for that demographic, but that's still unattainable for a lot of people.
Right. So we're actually working with the developer to develop a prototype building that we can build, the state can build, that is, has decent unit sizes. It may not have a lot of great amenities, but it'll be a comfortable place with large enough for a family to grow and very affordable. So we're still
working on... When you say affordable,
on,
what's a number in your head? Because affordable is subjective, right? So, Dean, what is a 1-bedroom affordable unit in Kaka'ako? What do you think that should be?
Oh, well.
Not 3,000 and 4,000.
For rent?
Yeah.
For a 1-bedroom unit, I would say no more than 2,500.
Okay.
And hopefully lower than that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you are paying for the beach, I think.
Yes.
And all the the shopping that's in that area.
And we're looking at delivering housing below that level. So we're trying to keep it as low as possible. And that's because only the state can do this. A state or a nonprofit can do this because we don't have a profit motive. We don't have to, repay investors. So this is something that the state can do for its residents.
Yeah. Oh, and what other, is there other ones, other programs that you're really looking for support on? Maybe on the ledge, I know you were talking about bills that are going through that might be more helpful for our residents.
One bill that we have relates to the down payment program. Right now, the program requires 5% or home buyers to put down 5% of their own funds as down payment to qualify for down payment assistance. That's in statute right now. 5% can be a lot in today's market where if you're buying a home for $500,000, 5% is $25,000. That can be a barrier to folks even participating in the program. So we want to lower that amount to, I think our proposal is 3% inclusive of funding received from us from our down payment program, just to make it easier for folks to qualify. Another proposal that we have is what's called our equity purchase program. This is a pilot program in place. It's being used by several developments. This is for sale condominiums, where under the pilot program, we purchase equity in units to lower the price paid by home buyers. So let's say a unit's being sold for $500,000. We put in $100,000, so that home buyer only has to put in $400,000. So it lowers the price, paid by home buyers. It's been very successful, and under the pilot, we basically we don't have any more money left in the pilot program. We want to make it permanent. And this would making it permanent allows us to put equity in earlier in the game, where it can actually benefit developers to make their projects pencil. So let's say a developer needs $10 million to make their project feasible. We can provide them a loan of $10,000. Instead of paying us back, it becomes our equity in the project, again, to lower the price of the units, so to lower the price paid by home buyers. So that's another bill that we're pushing for this year.
No, that's an interesting solution. So are you finding that developers are supportive of this type of model?
Yes, they are. I mean,
because they need to make money too.
The pilot program has been very successful.
Yeah. I think the challenge, when you talk to developers, there are ones that, want to help and address this housing shortage. But again, like Kimo said earlier, they're locked, their hands are locked, hands are tied because of permitting requirements and regulations and things like that.
Yes, I mean, permitting delays, the entitlement process. Kimo mentioned our project next to his, which he said took 10 years.
Yeah.
It actually took more like 30 years.
Oh my gosh, that is a big difference. What was the issue?
There was actually a law. It started in the 1990s. There was a lawsuit which put the project on hold for many, many years. So really, it took about 7 years after that all resolved for us to build the project. But still, it shows you how challenging it can be to build a project here in Hawaii, because there are just many obstacles to build any kind of type of development.
Yeah, and to compound that, we talk about tariffs and the cost of shipping all of these supplies to the islands, right? So things like that also impact us heavily.
It adds to uncertainty, unpredictability. It leads to higher pricing because, contractors have to raise their prices in anticipation of higher costs. So it's a challenge, but it's something that we are trying to address.
Yeah, there need to be some innovative solutions. I know we've been covering what's happening over at Aloha Stadium and the Stanford Cards groups about using, some of these interesting infrastructure and purchasing models, right? I can't remember the name of the financing model he's using right now, but
I think it was community facilities districts or tax increment financing.
Yes, tax increment financing.
Yes.
That's what it is. What do you think about that? That's another approach that could work.
That would be a great approach that can help development along the rail line. Basically, it allows future property tax revenue to fund infrastructure for projects, because the premise being that
the value is going to go up.
Right, and you need the development to get that property tax revenue. That it wouldn't happen if you wouldn't get that property tax revenue if not for the project. So it makes sense, and these are the kind of things that we need to do to fund all these large costs of development, whether it's development by the state or by the private sector.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we're all talking about this now because what we've been doing in the past hasn't really been working, and I think a lot of people are just tired now. They just want to be able to afford to live here, and there's so many people leaving because they can find better options on the mainland.
That is very true. We know that we just can't keep doing the same thing we've been doing in the past because that is not getting us the results that we need. That's why we're looking at these different programs. And one more bill I want to touch upon just briefly is our workforce housing bill, where right now if a unit is sold under an affordable program that we manage, it goes to market in 10 years. There's a 10-year affordability period. After that, it goes to market. There's a bill in the legislature this year which would keep the units affordable for the life of the project, but homeowners could gain equity in their unit. So they could gain equity at a rate that we would specify, but let's say we set it at 4.5%, which is the traditional rate of appreciation. A home buyer could buy an affordable unit, sell any time, but the price that they'd be limited to a price of 4.5% annual appreciation per year. So say after 5 years, it'd be roughly 20-something percent. Mm-hmm. So they're still gaining equity in the unit for their next home, but that unit stays relatively affordable. So that's something that we're looking at, and we're seeing if there's something that the legislature
might consider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, we need as many solutions as we can to try to keep people here and to get more people to be able to purchase and affordable housing here. So, anyway, Dean, thank you so much. Is there anything that where you can direct people to if they have questions or to take advantage about the programs that you talked about today?
Oh yes, for the mortgage program, go to our website. Our website is debedt.hawaii.gov/HHFDC. That's a lot to remember.
But we'll have it on our website,
yes.
hawaiinewsnow.com, to make it easier. But that's where they can start their journey to find out about state programs.
Or Google Hale Kama'aina and that'll take you to the mortgage program.
That too. That works too. All right. So that was Dean Minakami here with the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation. There you go. And that's it for us here on Covering the Cost with me, Annalisa Burgos. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.